Hello class and happy day you. Instructor Pamela here, and thank you for joining me today. The topic of discussion is going to include the alphabetical index for external causes and injuries. So they do have their separate alphabetical index outside of volume 2 in the front of the book, and you will find the ICD-10 external causes and injuries index directly after your tables of drugs and chemicals. Okay, so let's talk about the alphabetical index for external causes and injuries. So any major accident that we can think about that occurs to the human body, such as a patient was walking down a city street with skyscraper buildings and an icicle melted off of the building and sliced the patient from head to toe. There's actual codes to identify that scenario, and that's how this index is used. So keep in mind there's going to be multiple codes when you are coding from this alphabetical index. You'll have obviously whatever the injury sustained is, such as let's say a broke back or a broke ankle, how the patient sustained the injury, the place of occurrence, and what the patient was doing. So anywhere between 3 to 5 codes you may have when you are working with accidents and external causes. Also keep in mind that we have the A, D, and S for initial counter, which would identify with an A. So when the patient sustains the injury and they come in the ER, we will go ahead and code these codes with the A at the end of it, the 7th character, to identify that this is the initial treatment. Treatment is being established for this injury. The D will represent for follow-up encounters. So once the patient's, after the first 24 hours of the admission, any other codes following either discharge or during the admission or follow-up care from a physician, we will then use the D for the 7th character, indicating that these are follow-up care services now being provided. And then we also have the S, which is the sequela, which represents the patient healing from the injury or accident, and then they develop some type of issue or disorder or problem later down the line or in the future. So keep that in mind. That's how we will be able to identify basically the healing process, or what stage of healing the patient is in will be determined by that 7th character. Okay, so let's just jump into it and do some coding. So I'm going to start under A's, obviously. Let's go to accident and let's look for pedestrian. So again, it's alphabetical index, just like a dictionary. We're under accident. Now go to your P's for pedestrian. There it is, pedestrian on foot. And let's say they're a skateboarder. Pedestrian on foot. Now we're looking for skateboarder. And there it is, skateboarder V00.02. So this is where you would use your page holders, or you can write it down, or you can remember it. You know, I'm just a little bit slower. I'm a little bit older now. I still have to sometimes say my alphabet out loud just to make sure I'm heading in the right direction. So this is B00.2. All right. So we are traveling to chapter 20. Okay. And this comprises of code ranges from V01 to Y99, as you see on the side of the page. All right, we're going to V00. There it is, V00.02, skateboarder. All right. So again, you see all these different conventions and symbols at the by your codes. We want to make sure that we adhere to what the convention symbols are telling us to do. So as you see for skateboarder, we have an X, which means assigned placeholder. And we have the bullet, which means we need additional characters. All right, and as you see, so that what it's referencing to is our 7th character up here. We need to identify initial encounter, subsequent encounter, or sequela. And also the placeholder X, we need to put the placeholders after the V00.02 XD. The placeholder X means that it's for future development. It doesn't have any value right now, so it's basically a placeholder. That's what the X means. So when you see the X in front of the bullet, that means add the X after the digits, and then add the 7th character. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3. but it will tell you that because you will see how many characters are already established with the category and subcategories. Okay, keep in mind that our guidelines for Chapter 20 is obviously in the front of Chapter 20 in the tabular list, as well as in the front of the guidelines section. Please make sure that you are tabbing your books because it helps with navigation. As you see with how I struggle, even though I'm standing up with this, it's a big book. So tabbing really helps you navigate, and then it also helps with muscle memory so you know where you are going in the book. Keep in mind for your national certification examinations, you only have 2 minutes per question. And again, I told you there's a secret of how we do this, so don't panic. But yes, there's only 2 minutes per question, and you have to be able to know how to navigate through your book in a sufficient amount of time. Okay, so back to coding external causes and injuries. So let's do an example again. The patient comes into the emergency room, and they are establishing care because they had the accident, and this is identifying that the patient was a pedestrian skateboarding and sustained this injury. Now we need to identify what the actual injury is. So let's say it's a fracture of the ankle. So we're going to travel back to the alphabetical index and get fracture of ankle, and then identify left or right within the ICD-10 code. And then that would be our primary diagnosis. And the V00.02XA is going to be your secondary diagnoses. So that's how you would code that in the emergency room, the actual fracture of the ankle, and then how it happened, okay? Now, let's say the patient has been discharged from the ED, and they have a follow-up with their primary or the orthopedic surgeons within a week. They now have to have surgery, so they cast the patient, and now they're going to the orthopedic surgeons. And so from there, they're now going to code same way. They're going to code the actual fracture of the ankle, and they are going to identify the V00.02X, but now instead of the A, they're going to put the D for subsequent encounter. So now we are following the care of the patient with this ADNS, okay? So once we have established that, then basically that's how you would continue to code throughout the patient's surgery, as well as the follow-up care after that. And then once the patient is healed or no longer receiving care for the actual fracture of the repair, and let's say, I don't know, 6 months later, they're developing some sharpshooting pain, let's say where there was an implant done. Let's say the patient had a screw put in their ankle, and now they're experiencing or they're developing pain there. So when the patient goes back, it's going to be coded with pain in the ankle due to surgical implants. And then we're going to code this V00.02X, and now we're going to put the S for sequela, because now we're identifying this patient sustained an injury, they have healed, and now they are coming back because now they're developing pain in the surgical area where there's implants. So that is how you utilize the external causes as well as identifying the 7th character. Okay, I'm going to post a question in the discussion forum relating to how to navigate through the external causes and injuries alphabetical index. So look out for that question. I look forward for the engagement with everybody. Thank you so very much for joining me today. Until next time, journey well. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.